get a full and true assessment on how your ball club looks for the entirety of an MLB campaign. So, how did you look at this Memorial Day weekend around the bins?
There's at least a half a dozen teams right now that you know that are completely out of it and are going to be sellers at the trade deadline, and I think you could probably look at it the other way too, and then everybody else is sort of in between, and that's the hard part to figure out between now and the trade deadline.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game time decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
1-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's 2-0. He's crying behind our bench. But now it's 2-2. He's got a little bit more pep in his step right now. He's sort of into it. You guys will catch him next time they do a bet shop. See if they can get through this power play, though. And, they got a 2-on-1 here. Potentially 3-on-1. So you got to finish this off. They do. They do. I say you got to finish that off.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome to hour number 2, live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid and all across that SportsGrid network. What a second hour we have in store for you. It's the Memorial at Jack's Place on the PGA Tour this upcoming week. 1 weekend away from the third major championship of this season, our national championship, the 2024 U.S. Open. Keith Stewart will join us next to preview this week out in Columbus at Muirfield Village, and then, of course, an early look at the U.S. Open as well. And, Donnie, I appreciate what the headline above us is trying to do. It's finals week. Still 2 days away, though, from game number 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals, and now 4 days away from the opening night of the Stanley Cup Final on a Saturday in Sunrise between the Panthers and the Oilers.
Yep, we will wait, which means that we can talk about the same topics over and over and over until they get here, because we are talking about a Thursday night NBA Finals, a Saturday night NHL Finals. And by the way, very deserving teams in the finals in both of these leagues. So it should be some fun finals, and hopefully we don't have we waited till Thursday and we only get 4 more games, and the same thing in NHL. We waited all the way to Saturday and this is a 4-game sweep. Extend these series, people. 6 and 7 games. Give us some fun to talk about on a night-to-night basis here. That's all we anticipate here at this point.
The odds makers are starting to believe that it could look like that in both the NBA Championship Series and, of course, the chase for the Cup. Let's start in the NBA Finals between Boston and Dallas. All year long, DRS, the Celtics have been booked as the favorites from way back in the preseason through a good majority of the regular season when they became a solo favorite, and then towards the end of round 1 of the NBA postseason, an odds-on favorite with a minus money figure for their number to win Larry O'Brien Trophy number 18, minus 220. The number remains outright for the Celtics to win the NBA championship, with Dallas an underdog for a third consecutive series at plus 184. Those numbers really have not changed, not even much from the hypothetical finals matchup that we had during the conference finals. But here's where the odds have moved ever so slightly. Boston in the series spread, laying a game and a half is plus 110. Dallas getting a game and a half in those series numbers is minus 134. The minus money is the expected outcome. It is the juice. It is the vig. If Dallas is going to cover a game and a half, that means we see the entire duration in 7 games. Boston can win in 7, or the Mavericks win this series and pull off an upset. That is how you cash the Mavs plus 1.5 in the series spread. That has changed ever so slightly from when these NBA Finals odds opened up.
Yeah, and also, rightfully so, the Celtics are a heavy favorite because they've been the best team, as you pointed out, all season long. Now, granted, since we had post-All-Star break, the Dallas Mavericks have really kicked it into gear. But I agree with you. You take a look at that spread price here. It's like, man, we are expecting this to go at least 6 games. But then you take a look at how the postseason is broken down specifically for the team favored to win the NBA Finals, which is the Boston Celtics. Series number 1, 5 games. Series number 2, 5 games. Series number 3, 4 games. So theoretically, we probably shouldn't, if the Boston Celtics we expect to win, go a longer series here, which means 6 or 7 games. It might turn out to be Boston in 5. But for me, just watching the Dallas Mavericks and what I know that high end of the spectrum can be for their 2 superstars, they're going to win some basketball games. And we pointed this out ad nauseum. What do we expect? Which is really unfair for the Celtics. They haven't played anybody. What do we expect? I don't know. The same team that showed up in the regular season and pasted everybody with the league's best record and is completely healthy with Porzingis coming back to the starting lineup for game number 1. You should expect dominant performances here. But the one thing we haven't seen in the playoffs is give me a little bit of adversity. Adversity is not 1-1 going back to an inferior opponent's home court in game number 3. Adversity is, oh no, we're down 2-1 here and we're still on the opponent's court. That hasn't happened yet, and maybe it will in this series. But that minus 220 price sticks out as a heavy favorite. And also, I wanted to see, as a fan, this go at least 6 or 7 games because it's fun to watch elite-level athletes playing for a championship and getting to watch them multiple times. Not, oh, boy, Ben, 3-1 series lead, 2-0 series lead, 3-0 series lead. It's not any fun at that point because then you're just waiting for the end of that series. I think it does go longer than 5.5 games to cash in that ticket, so I think it does at least get the 6 here.
And a couple of trends to pay attention to, game by game, night by night, that, of course, will influence the outcome and the odds to win the NBA championship. Boston has played, as Donnie mentioned, those 14 games only in playoff action, booked as at least a 7.5-point favorite in all 14. So the 6-point spread in favor of the C's for game number 1 on Thursday evening, the shortest number in Boston's favor throughout this playoff run. Total now down to 214. The Mavericks, as an underdog, have not been shy throughout these playoffs. They are 6-1 straight up, and thus, of course, then against the spread. Every time they have covered a number as the underdog, they have won outright, and they were a slight dog in their second-round series before it began against OKC. They were a slight underdog in the Western Conference Finals against Minnesota. The key, of course, for Dallas is can the 2 superstars, can that dynamic duo of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving so outpace Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown that the depth and balance Boston has is not enough to make up the margin. At least that's what I believe the key matchup advantage is for the Celtics. Now to the ice we go. Stanley Cup Finals, second consecutive year. The Florida Panthers are in the chase for the Cup. Last year coming up short, but as the 8th seed on the Cinderella-like run to the Vegas Golden Knights. The Edmonton Oilers into the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in nearly 20 years since 2006. Trying to win Lord Stanley's Cup and bring it back north of the border for the first time in 3 decades since 1993 in the Montreal Canadiens. Florida has home ice advantage. Florida is the series outright favorite at minus 130. But the margins, DRS, just in general, but as we see here for the Stanley Cup Final, in hockey throughout this postseason, they haven't been nearly as drastic as we have seen at times in the NBA. And this one, of course, much closer even than the NBA Finals between Boston and Dallas.
Yeah, and also you'd see that price point up there, which was listed at minus 130. That number's been bouncing around and continuously live here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's minus 128. So it's almost like a de facto pick-em between these 2 teams, which should say we're going to have an unbelievable series. And also, geographically speaking, way up in Canada, way down in South Florida. This will be fun to see where that, allegiance lies across the country. Is it you're riding with the superstar team like the Edmonton Oilers with the guys that are always up for those MVP awards? Or is it the upstart teams in Florida? And who would have thought here that the state of Florida is a hockey hotbed after all these years with how good the Lightning have been, and also now the resurgence of the Florida Panthers, who for a long time were just a bottom feeder in the NHL. Now all of a sudden being one of those top tier organizations. Yeah. That should be interesting to watch. And also, if you are a Canadian, and we know you love your ice hockey, but again, there's Canadians on both the Oilers and the Panthers. We do understand that. But how does it feel? It's like, boy, we're finally going to win a Stanley Cup. We're going to lose to a team in Florida, as if, it's unkind to say, who cares about hockey in Florida when I know they do? But Canada and Edmonton live for hockey 365. If the Florida Panthers fans lose the series, they head down the South Beach to the beach, relax, and be like, all right, what's up next year? Where are we going to go tonight? And hang out at like the Cleveland or something like that. And Canada is all in, man. 1993? That's a long time, man, without the country that's known for hockey lifting Lord Stanley's Cup.
The northernmost team in the National Hockey League, that is Edmonton. The southernmost team, that is the Florida Panthers. They square off for the Stanley Cup with game number 1 in Sunrise starting on Saturday. DRS, you mentioned the Oilers fans up there in Canada. You have to feel for them. We'll hear from our resident Canadian, Joe Madden, later on in this second hour, although she has no kindred ties to Edmonton as a whole. But I would like to take this moment to think of one of the strongest Florida Panthers fans that I know. His name is Rick Hora. I'm pretty sure he was an early investor in this franchise and organization, and I know he is cheering on the Panthers wherever he may be.
And by the way, yes, and a good point here. Did Rick make up throwing the rats on the ice a thing down there for the Florida Panthers? I believe it was him.
I have seen the plastic rat, at least that he carries in his home studio. More on the early line next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Chicago is one of the top media markets in the country, so it makes some sense. But I gotta tell you, Philadelphia, not far behind. Cleveland, Ohio, not far behind. I would guess that precedent is now set.
They now would be paying, based on the last 12 months numbers, they'd be paying an additional $81.6 million in taxes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid. It is the week before the third major championship of this year in the golf calendar, the U.S. Open. But it's a signature event on the PGA Tour. To Jack's Place we go. Outside of Columbus, Ohio, it's the 2024 Memorial Tournament. And joining us live from Muirfield Village, Keith Stewart is here on this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid. Keith, thanks so much for taking the time to break down the Memorial this week at Jack's Place.
Good morning, guys. It's a fantastic Tuesday out here in Dublin, Ohio. 73 guys are on property to shoot for $20 million. What could be better? And Jack's hand is waiting a handshake from that victor on Sunday afternoon. One of the great traditions in golf. Let's go.
The Golden Bear green side on 18 for who will be the champion. And Keith, before a major championship, a signature event, and a star-studded field this week on the PGA Tour. Scottie Scheffler, every tournament he enters, he's going to be the short favorite, plus 360 at this moment. More than half the rest of the field where you see Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele just behind, tied for that second-best price at 9-1. Colin Morikawa, 14-1, and Victor Hovland rounds out the top five at 18-1. What do you make of the strong field and how they will perform this week at Muirfield Village?
I mean, this is really set up to be some kind of spectacular shootout come Sunday. You have three players all in great form, under plus 1,000. And, you know, I'm always looking at the future boards myself. If you go ahead to the U.S. Open, you can get Rory at plus 1,100 and Xander at plus 1,200. So, you know, the odds makers really feel right now that Xander and Rory have a great chance to take Scottie down. And don't forget, a year ago, Scottie came in third, and he gained over 20 strokes tee to green on the field. It was unbelievable, and he lost 9 putting, and he lost by 1 stroke. So this is definitely one of those places that when you break it down, Scottie Scheffler should win again by 5, but we'll see what happens. Xander is your current reigning last major championship winner, and, of course, Rory's won 2 of his last 4.
By the way, Keith, you take a look at this tournament, and it used to be the same way on the Florida Swing, where at Bay Hill, it's like Arnold Palmer is one of the all-time great icons here. He would show up to the tournament, and you expected to be there, sort of pay homage to one of those guys that, hey, you know what? They paved the way for me. Talk about how special it is for some of these guys to show up here at Jack's tournament, knowing that it's Jack Nicklaus here. He's going to be watching over it, and winning this tournament almost feels like just outside of a major.
Oh, it definitely does. And I'll say something that, you know, and I'm sure this isn't a hot take, but the fact that they have stuck this event right before the U.S. Open does a disservice to what this is. This is actually one of the most premier golf events for the season. And the way that it got stuck there, and a lot of people thought it was called the Memorial because it was played on Memorial Day weekend, but that's really not true. It's the Memorial because every year they honor some of the legends, the Hall of Famers of the game. And it's a really important tournament when it was a full field for the guys to make it here. And just to see Jack when they would finish their rounds on a Friday and hopefully make the cut. I mean, hopefully as the schedule again probably changes, well, definitely will change again in 2025, this place can find a standalone spot on the tour because it is a really, really big deal. And since the renovation in 2020 to the golf course, this place is good. I mean, par 72, almost 7,600 yards. This thing is a really firm test. You've got par 5s that are like a 3-shot test. I mean, this thing is really, really good. And you look at the champions since the renovation, Rahm, Cantley, Hovland, you've got the game's best. It's just a great spot. And to your point, Donnie, these guys, they consider it an honor and a privilege to be here.
It is a really interesting thing with how the PGA Tour schedule has laid out this year. Signature events both before and after the major championships that we have seen so far. On one hand, if you're looking for the positive view, you get the best in the world trying to play their best, entering the biggest tournaments that are majors. But again, you do want to highlight the historical tracks that we see each and every year on the PGA Tour. So, Keith, let's dive into the 2024 field as you look up and down this star-studded list. Who do you think has a good week out there in Dublin, Ohio?
Oh, I love when we get into the early leans on the early line on a Tuesday morning. I'm going to go with Morikawa finally wins the Memorial, right? At plus 1,400 at the top of the board. I just have a tough time going with those guys in single digits because they're all in such great form. So I'm going to try to get a little value out of this thing. And if you look over his last 5 starts, you've got a 3rd, a 9th, a 16th, a 4th, and a 4th. And there's 2 major championships in there, both which he finished 3rd and 4th. Let's go to Valhalla. That's another Nicklaus design, right? And a good precursor for what we're going to see this week. And, of course, he finished 4th there. He's won the workday here during the COVID summer, which was another event that they held at Muirfield Village. I mean, this guy's gaining 9 strokes over his last 5 starts. He's definitely in a good place to win here, and he fades the ball off the tee, which fits Jack. Now, the other guy I'm going for, everybody's talking about Hideki. Well, don't get thrown off by that. In the middle of the board, you've got a guy at plus 6,000 named Siwoo Kim. Siwoo Kim can drive it. He can thread a needle with his driver, and you're going to need that this week. I've been out on the golf course. The rough is lush, and it is dense, and we're going to get a little bit of rain tomorrow. So it's only going to get a little bit softer and a little bit harder, right, in order to hit these greens, which are small. So Siwoo Kim, his ball striking accuracy, his ability to avoid bogey, and everyone always says, Keith, Siwoo can't putt. But you know what, guys? He can putt here. He can putt it all at Jack's comp courses. Look at a guy like at TPC Sawgrass at the Players. Great comp course for here. He's one of those guys that when he gets it going here, he could certainly do some damage. And at 60-1, I just love the value and the way he's striking the ball right now.
And
It's
listen,
fantastic
it is
stuff.
very. Oh, go ahead, Donnie. Sorry. Got us again. Go ahead, Donnie.
Yeah, they got us, Keith. They got us. By the way, this tournament is going to be fantastic, but we have to remind ourselves. Next week is the U.S. Open at Pinehurst #2. Keith, just talk about the anticipation coming up for next week's tournament here in the Open.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because you like to have this course be a preview. So watch the around the green play. That's what we're really going to be focused on next week when I'm coming to you guys live from Pinehurst, and we're talking about who has a chance there in order to win the 3rd season's major. At the end of the day, we won't see as much rough. We're going to see a much different texture of golf course. But you know what? Long iron play and the ability to handle the pressure of a signature moment will certainly be something this weekend that I'm paying attention to.
Scotty Scheffler already a short favorite at Pinehurst at plus 410. Keith Stewart, we appreciate the time. Enjoy this week at the Memorial at Jack's Place. We'll talk next week for sure. College baseball and softball next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Chicago is one of the top media markets in the country, so it makes some sense. But I got to tell you, Philadelphia, not far behind. Cleveland, Ohio, not far behind. I would guess that precedent is now set.
They now would be paying, based on the last 12 months numbers, they'd be paying an additional $81.6 million in taxes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball certainly in full swing here as we start to enter the summer months. But at the same time, we got some big doings here on regional action, out in super regional action, and then the College World Series. So how are we feeling, BWS? You loving this segment? Is that a great opening here? We ready?
We're feeling good, but my co-host was a little bit unsure of what the topic of this segment was before we came back from commercial break, looking at the college diamond, both baseball and softball. So for the first words out of his mouth to be Major League Baseball, I thought we were going off the rails.
Segue. See, now you don't give me any credit for this stuff here. If you want me to be commissioner of college baseball, we can do that as well, because I'll make a lot of changes to college baseball. But the people like it the way it is. I just feel like right now, regionals to super regionals to World Series, I just need to get to the World Series here. But big doings here in the regional action, upsets happening as well. And I believe the game yesterday, that was 13.5 to 15.5, still stayed under the total with a shocking number, BWS. How about that? Yeah.
It did, DRS. When we were breaking it down, it was going to be the first best bet that I gave out because the game started early. That was Evansville and East Carolina. ECU, the host site, in a winner-take-all Game 7 at their regional against the 4 seed, the Evansville Purple Aces, trying to become the 9th ever number 4 seed to reach a super regional. And that's exactly what the Purple Aces did yesterday. 13.5 was the total. I was going to tell you to take the under. The line locked multiple times in the final 15 minutes of the show, popped back up at 15 and a hook. We didn't really have projected starters. You kind of thought it would be an opener, all hands on deck kind of game. So it spooked me a little bit. I said avoid it. I gave out another under that did hit. In fact, all 4 of the Game 7 winner-take-all scenarios yesterday in the double elimination format of the regional did hit the under because of that all-hands-on-deck type environment. But Evansville, as we give them a moment, the 9th ever number 4 seed to reach the super regionals, a team that has been playing Division I baseball since the late 1970s, their first NCAA tournament appearance since the year 2006, and on to the super regionals for the first time in program history. A sincere shout out to Evansville, knocking off ECU 6-5. We had theatrics in the best game of the day. To extras we go. Chapel Thrill, as Mike Monaco, the play-by-play guy down there this weekend at the North Carolina Chapel Hill Regional, would say, as UNC comes back to knock off and take out the reigning national champs LSU 4-3 in extras. That was the best bet I gave out. Under 14.5, closed at 12.5, and it did, in fact, stay under. How about the powerhouse of Northeast baseball? Not necessarily, Donnie, a geographical location you would associate with successful baseball at the collegiate level, but Connecticut on to the super regionals for the second time in the last 3 years. UConn men's basketball, 2-time reigning national champs, the Huskies into the super regionals as well. In Florida, the 3 seed at the regional in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. The host team comes back. Your guy, Jackie Kaggs, gets the job done as the Gators knock off the Cowboys 4-2 to advance to the super regional as well.
Take a look at some of those future wagers you can make. 5 teams at 10-1 or less to win the College World Series. Clemson 10-1, UNC 8-1, Connecticut also 8-1, then Texas A&M plus 360, and another SEC team, Tennessee, at a plus 280 price there. So how are we feeling about those future numbers here for the College World Series?
All right, so when you look at Tennessee, the number 1 national seed, but it's been a very long time since the first overall national seed has won the College World Series on the men's side. They do get Evansville. The Purple Aces now trying to become the 4th ever number 4 seed to make it all the way to Omaha for the CWS. You'd think that would set up very well for Tennessee. In super regional action, the way that things lay out, it is a best-of-3 series this upcoming weekend. We've got 16 teams still left in the running, so Tennessee has the best price. A&M will take on Oregon. They will host the super regional in College Station. Kentucky, a pretty good draw as well, but against Oregon State, that super regional in Lexington. Oregon State did not need a winner-take-all Game 7 yesterday, despite playing UC Irvine, a resumption of the game from the day prior. Listen, there is so much to get to in super regional action. We're running out of time in these short segments. We also have to look at the winner-take-all. I didn't hear what our producer Joe Frieso said, but we'll look at the winner-take-all We'll update it next week, but that can't happen. We'll do it tomorrow. What I'm trying to say is we need to get to the winner-take-all game today in Oklahoma City between Oklahoma and Florida on the softball diamond. We'll do that later. Hockey Talk next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Chicago is one of the top media markets in the country, so it makes some sense. But I gotta tell you, Philadelphia, not far behind. Cleveland, Ohio, not far behind. I would guess that precedent is now set.
They now would be paying, based on the last 12 months numbers, they'd be paying an additional $81.6 million in taxes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We are still 4 days away from the start of the 2024 Stanley Cup Final. That's Saturday in Sunrise between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. But we will break down each and every angle that you need to know for the Cup Final. Edmonton trying to bring back Lord Stanley's Cup to the Great White North. Florida into the Stanley Cup Final for a second consecutive year. Last year, the Panthers losing out to the Vegas Golden Knights. This year, Florida looking to triumph on top. We welcome in Joe Madden, live right here to this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid to help us get ready for everything we need to know for the Stanley Cup Final here in 2024. Joe, as always, we appreciate the time here on this Tuesday morning.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to start looking at the Stanley Cup Finals here. It's going to be absolutely war, and I can hardly wait for that puck to drop.
Joe, before we dive into the specific matchup between Edmonton and Florida, let's take a look back on how we reached this point in the Stanley Cup postseason. Edmonton out of the West, second best price to win the Western Conference crown before the year got started. Florida back into the Stanley Cup Final, but last year it was unexpected, coming out of nowhere as the 8th seed to reach all the way to the Cup Final. When you look at the playoff bracket around the National Hockey League this season, to see the Oilers face off against the Panthers, did you expect this, or did it surprise you more than anything?
It really did surprise me here, especially out of the Western Conference. You look at the Edmonton Oilers, and I'll be the first to eat my words. I didn't think Stewart Skinner could get the Edmonton Oilers here, but he played 3 fantastic, and I'm talking lights out games in those last 3 games versus the Dallas Stars. During the rest of those games, he was pretty solid. We know he was benched once out there, but Stewart Skinner has really impressed me so far in the playoffs. I'm hoping he can continue that style of play into the finals here. And then out of the Eastern Conference, I really did think it was a coin flip between the Florida Panthers and the New York Rangers, both of those teams having so many strengths on both sides of the puck. So I'm happy to see the Florida Panthers here. They absolutely deserve it. And this team is so hungry out there, you guys.
Joe, 2 championship series about to get underway this week. The NBA starts on Thursday night. The NHL starts on Saturday. In the NBA, we have over a $2 price tag here on the Boston Celtics, so it looks like they probably should win that series. But we take a look at hockey, a minus 128 price this morning for the Florida Panthers to win the series over the Edmonton Oilers. And if we're taking a look at that, minus 1.5 price, plus 160 here on the Florida Panthers for the Edmonton Oilers. You take the game and a half, it's a minus 200 price. How are we feeling? And also, do we agree that the Florida Panthers should be the favorite in this series?
I absolutely agree. The Florida Panthers should be the favorite in this series at minus 130. It is a little juicy here, but I do think they can get this done in 6 or 7 over the Edmonton Oilers. This isn't going to come easy, though, and I do think if it wasn't for Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard, those big names on the Edmonton Oilers, you look at the rest of the team, and they don't have the depth that I really wanted to see. Now, this team has played absolutely fantastic, but I look at Florida's way of grinding down teams. And while Edmonton might get up early in these games, and I think it's a perfect situation for live betting, with the Florida Panthers coming back, I just don't see that 3 periods of play that they will be able to withstand the Florida Panthers.
So, Joe, you saw those odds right there in terms of the series total games, the duration of this 2024 Stanley Cup Final, plus 194. Technically, the shortest number is for this to go the distance and reach a 7th game, but plus 198 is 6 games as well. How competitive do you expect this Cup Final to be and what it means overall for the entirety of the duration of this Cup Final?
I expect it to be complete war out there, Ben. I'm looking for these teams to go back and forth, trade wins and losses. Now, this travel is going to start to grind them down. It'll be interesting to see which team can fare better with that. But this does go 6 or 7, in my opinion. This isn't going to come easy for either of these teams unless one of these goaltenders really falls off a cliff here. I can't see it happening. And when we do look at the goalies right now, I do think Skinner has shown the better performance than Bobrovsky has. Bobrovsky hasn't had the work that Skinner has had to face. So this is going to come down to the defenses. If Edmonton continue to play that style of defense, we know we have hot offenses on both sides of the puck, but this is going to be a hard-hitting game. You look at Sam Bennett, already 53 hits in the postseason here. He's going to be coming after Connor McDavid, and we know Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have the ability to score on the best goaltenders out there, so that tandem is absolutely fantastic. You look at Corey Perry, this is his 5th Stanley Cup appearances with the 5th team here. He has that veteran presence. He's going to be building this team up. And then the Panthers, they have so many playmakers over there. So this isn't going to come easy to either of these teams. It goes 6 or at least 7.
Joe, we got some pretty good parity here if we take a look at the Conn Smythe Trophy numbers. You're taking a look at 6 players at a 10-to-1 or less price. That's Bouchard, Draisaitl, Tkachuk, Bobrovsky, Barkov, and McDavid here. And obviously McDavid on the front end of that spectrum at a plus 220 price. But also keep in mind, his team not the favorites to win the Stanley Cup Final. If you had to place a wager on who's going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy right now, who would it be, Joe?
You know what? Only once in history has a losing team seen the winner of the Conn Smythe be their team. So Connor McDavid, you know the superstar level he's at. Would I be shocked if the Florida Panthers win this and he gets a Conn Smythe? Absolutely not. At plus 220, I would put a little bit of money on that. If Edmonton comes out and wins this cup, though, I really do think while it is pretty hard for us to make a case for Stewart Skinner, at plus 24,000 for Stewart Skinner here, he's going to win them this cup. If he can stand on his head like he did versus the Dallas Stars, at plus 24,000, that would be my look. For the Florida Panthers, though, I really struggle with why Barkov is listed as the favorite for that team. I think Matthew Tkachuk, he comes into this Stanley Cup Finals on a different level. I think he's going to be a huge playmaker, already 19 points in the playoffs.
Sam Reinhart for this series at 55-1, and no love for Donnie's guy. Even in Donnie's pitch, Donnie Draisaitl for his cousin Leon at plus 850. They're that second best price for Edmonton. But Connor McDavid is the favorite. Oftentimes, Joe, in sports, an individual can transcend even team success. But here the Edmonton Oilers are on the brink of winning a Stanley Cup, and Connor McDavid is into a Cup final finally. 5 goals throughout this playoff run, but 26 assists so far in the postseason for the Oilers. The best player in the National Hockey League, now on the most significant of stages. Will Connor McDavid match that stage here in the Stanley Cup final?
You know what? He absolutely could. Connor McDavid is such a lights out player out there. He's going to be the difference maker now. I think if you're going to bet on Connor McDavid, you go big. 15 plus points in the playoffs is going to be so phenomenally hard because those goals aren't going to be easy. That's coming in at plus 870. But if you think he can tie Wayne Gretzky's record, he needs 16 points to hit 47 points in the postseason. That's coming in at plus 1400. I'd rather put a sprinkle on that. The more I dig into these numbers, I do think Connor McDavid, he has a big game. I do think there's going to be 1 or 2 games here where these goaltenders get hit hard and Connor McDavid gets 3 or 4 points in it. So if we can get that at 47 points for his total points, he's got 31, needs 16, you guys, at plus 1400. To beat Wayne Gretzky, he needs 48 points.
Overtime hockey, Joe, we love it, specifically in the playoffs and the Stanley Cup Finals. You take a look at some of these fun betting markets here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. If we get 2 or more overtime games, plus 145, 3 or more overtime games at a plus 650 price. Any thoughts on this series being close? And also, will we see multiple overtimes?
I absolutely love this bet. I think it's the best bet of the series. Looking at 2+ overtimes during the series here, coming in at plus 145. Now, I do think you can ladder it up to 3+. I feel more comfortable with the 2, but a bet that I like better than the 3+ is 1 game to reach double overtime here. That's coming in at plus 390. I do think this is such a tight battle in a couple of these games. We will get that double overtime. If you think it can happen twice, it's a huge long shot, but it's plus 4,400, you guys. I'm so tempted to hit it.
You see a lot of parity in those Stanley Cup odds. It is expected to be close, and it starts on Saturday in Sunrise between the Panthers and the Oilers. Joe Madden, thank you for your breakdown and your preview of the 2024 Cup Final. NBA playoffs, buy or sell, up next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than game time decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Chicago is one of the top media markets in the country, so it makes some sense. But I got to tell you, Philadelphia, not far behind. Cleveland, Ohio, not far behind. I would guess that precedent is now set.
They now would be paying, based on the last 12 months numbers, they'd be paying an additional $81.6 million in taxes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to be fun. 48 hours until the 2024 NBA Finals begins in Boston between the Celtics and the Mavericks. We play a game of NBA buy or sell, using the finals to have some big picture and legacy conversations live right here on this Tuesday on the early line. So, DRS, let's dive right in. Buy or sell with a title. Luka Doncic is the best player in the world. Luka Doncic into the NBA Finals, leading the Dallas Mavericks into the NBA Championship Series for the first time in 13 years. So that is the buy or sell. With a title, Luka Doncic is the best player in the world.
We are a what have you done for me lately society. If the Dallas Mavericks win the world championship over the Celtics, who are a heavy favorite to win the NBA championship, then absolutely. Even though common sense is, now hold on. The MVP is based on a season long here. It's Luka Doncic, and, it's going up against some other players who are very good, and Nikola Jokic involved, and Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid. Look, hear me out on that. Yes, theoretically, he's probably not the best overall. But if he wins the championship, I'm giving him those rights right now, because if I see a series that goes 6 or 7 games and Luka is putting up triple-double after triple-double and basically saying, I am putting Dallas and the Mavericks on my back here, myself and Kyrie Irving, we're going to beat this immovable object in the Boston Celtics, then why not? Absolutely. He wins a world championship here. He is the best player in the world. I'll give it to him.
Luka Doncic is already a top 5 player in the NBA, and frankly, I don't think it's 4 or 5. So let's call it top 3. But I still think the best player on planet Earth is Nikola Jokic. Nobody really does what he does still to this point. If you were building a franchise, who would you take, Doncic or Jokic? I think either makes sense. Again, Luka Doncic is already a top 5 player and arguably top 3, but I still believe Nikola Jokic, even if they were to match each other in terms of NBA championships, is the best player in the association. That is still how I see it. Luka Doncic, again, already top 3, but I still give the nod to Jokic, Donnie.
Now, look, I can't argue with you at this point because, what have you done for me lately? We haven't seen it lately yet, which means a championship here for Luka Doncic. I love him. I think he is a top 3, top 4, top 5 player, argumentative, and also next year. If you're looking at, and let's just say they even lose this. I'm like, take a step further. Let's just say Dallas loses, but Doncic plays well. You know who's going to be the favorite to win the MVP next year? It's going to be Luka Doncic over everybody else. So I'm taking it now where I'm saying, I don't know what's going to happen in the NBA Finals, but if it's positive for Luka, I'm going to give it to him here because I love to live in the moment. And what I just saw was probably an unbelievable Finals performance after an unbelievable run throughout the final half of the NBA season. I'll give it to him on that aspect.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to bet Luka Doncic before next year begins in terms of winning the NBA MVP award, because Nikola Jokic is probably going to be the favorite, having won it 3 times in the last 4 years. You would expect Joel Embiid to be there as well, but with the 65-game minimum, not going to bet JoJo. With Nikola Jokic winning it 3 times in the past 4 years, not going to bet the Joker. I think Luka Doncic is the answer. In fact, I think the best bet to win the NBA Finals MVP award is Luka Doncic, and yet I still would give the nod to Nikola Jokic as the best player on planet Earth, despite what Doncic is doing. And what Luka Doncic is doing throughout this NBA playoff run is also historical. He scored 28 points in all of the 5 games against Minnesota, 30 points twice, or 30 points in 4 of those 5 games in that series. He has now recorded 9 playoff triple-doubles in his young career. That's already in the top 10 in the history of NBA playoff action. Now we go to the other guy. I said Luka Doncic was the best bet to win NBA Finals MVP because if Dallas wins, it is only Luka Doncic. I don't think the Mavericks win an NBA championship without Luka Doncic being arguably the best player, or at least a 1A. To the other side of things, though, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP was not Jason Tatum. It was Jaylen Brown. And Tatum is the odds-on favorite, however, to be that NBA Finals MVP. We look at what Jason Tatum has done throughout his playoff resume. 24 points per game, 108 postseason games already, 5 appearances in the conference finals. This his second in the NBA Finals for the second time in the last 3 years. But they came up short to Golden State 2 years ago. They did not reach the NBA Finals a season ago. Donnie, as we have said, for this Celtics franchise, they are judged not by winning the East, not by a playoff berth, not by the NBA's best regular season record, but by winning an NBA championship. So buy or sell to you, Jason Tatum, as the superstar for Boston, is under the most pressure in the 2024 NBA Finals.
Buy, absolutely, because if Jason Tatum doesn't win an NBA championship this year, it should be buy to him from Boston, because I don't know how he can return. Look, and sometimes you overstate this, right? He's a great player. Right. Boston is lucky to have him. They would love to have him for another 10 years, but they also want to get the winning that goes associated with a great player. And also, when we talk about sometimes LeBron James, let's just say his first go-around in Cleveland, didn't work out in their favor. Tried his best, but what most people were saying, well, nobody can win a championship in Cleveland, not even the great LeBron James. Goes to Miami, wins a couple championships, but he does return back and finally gets that job done. But if you are Jason Tatum, you're taking, look, this isn't the little engine that could when LeBron's first go-around in Cleveland was like, well, he's going up against unbelievable teams, and it's just himself. No, Jason Tatum is a fantastic basketball player on an unbelievably talented and deep basketball team that is favored to win the NBA Finals. And if Boston doesn't get it done this year, when will they ever get it done? So absolutely, Jason Tatum, by far the most pressure in these finals, it's on his shoulders. Bone-crushing pressure for him, Ben.
The third time you will hear bye throughout this show, because I agree with Donnie, without a shadow of a doubt. The most pressure in the NBA Finals is on Jason Tatum. His Boston team is the historic franchise. His Celtics team, judged by NBA championships and trying to hang banner number 18, their first NBA title since 2008. It is squarely on the shoulders of Jason Tatum. If they come up short, sure, there will be plenty to blame. Joe Mazzulla, Jaylen Brown, so on and so forth. But first and foremost, it will focus on Jason Tatum. And if the Celtics come up short, what does that ultimately mean? That Jason Tatum was by far not the best player in this series, playing second stage to Luka Doncic. We will talk about the Celtics and their history up next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Chicago is one of the top media markets in the country, so it makes some sense. But I gotta tell you, Philadelphia, not far behind. Cleveland, Ohio, not far behind. I would guess that precedent is now set.
They now would be paying, based on the last 12 months numbers, they'd be paying an additional $81.6 million in taxes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Buy or sell continues the 2024 NBA Finals edition, 2 days away from the start of the finals this season in Beantown, inside TD Garden, game number 1 on Thursday night. Inside TD Garden, 17 championship banners hang, DRS. That's tied for the most in NBA history, alongside the Los Angeles Lakers. Those are the only 2 organizations that have double-digit NBA championships. Jason Tatum and LeBron James on there for the Lakers. All right, I'll let that slide. 17 for both of those organizations. But buy or sell, put that smile away. Stop licking your lips. Put that smile away. Buy or sell, the Celtics are the greatest franchise in NBA history.
Look, if you put it to a vote right now, LeBron James probably is the greatest Laker of all time. So we do think that LeBron James should be up there on that quick little graphic. But having said that, to me, rivalries in the East, and you try to look at the bias out of the way, because I don't like the city of Boston. I don't like Boston's teams any bit, because I'm from Philadelphia, and that's just what we do. We like to hate on other organizations, particularly that have a lot more success than our organizations do. But having said that, sometimes you do take a step back and say how many championships these 2 teams have won and look around the NBA. It's amazing. Like Boston versus LA was not just some fictitious thing they would chant in the 1980s, beat LA, beat Boston or whatever, because these 2 teams have won a lot of them. But Boston won a lot of championships a long time ago. So my nod here would go towards the Los Angeles Lakers, just because they have a lot of championships, but also have a nice little balance in those championships. Win some there in the 80s, win some there, in the early 2000s. And by the way, they won that championship in 2000, 2001, 2002, 9, 10, and then 20. So just for the recent relevancy here of the Los Angeles Lakers, I would give the nod to them. Equal balance on championships itself, but again, just for what have you done for me lately so much in the past 25 years, it's been much more Lakers, along with also having a very rich history as well.
Completely agree, Donnie. Very well said. As DRS knows very well, I grew up in the Los Angeles area. Growing up, I was a fan of the Kobe and Shaq. Growing up, I was a Kobe and Shaq fan. And then it became, is that Corey Maggette? Did Corey Maggette just get a shout-out during an NBA Finals? Fantastic. I love that. Oh, Darius Miles, good one as well. I grew up a huge Lakers fan. I was a diehard Lakers fan. I am not so much a Lakers fan anymore because I often admit that I grew up for most of my life hating on LeBron James and advocating for why Kobe Bryant was a greater all-time player. I do not make the same arguments. You want to have a one-on-one conversation, I might have that with you at another date. But the Lakers are a better all-time franchise than that of the Boston Celtics. 32 NBA Finals appearances to Boston's 23, the same amount of NBA championships. Why? Because of Bill Russell. 11 of the 17 NBA titles for the Celtics came between 1957 and 1969. The Celtics have one NBA championship since the mid-1980s. It was 2008. The Lakers are a better all-time franchise. Buy or sell next up as we look at Finals MVP breakdowns. Coming from the winning team, 54 of the 55 times. The only guy ever to win it from a losing team, that was Jerry West back in 1969. I believe he won the Finals MVP, averaging 38 points per game, virtually losing out to Bill Russell's Celtics, if I am not mistaken. The last time it got close, 2015, that was when LeBron went off for Cleveland, but they lost out. Ultimately did the Cavaliers to the Warriors, and Andre Iguodala won the NBA Finals MVP. So buy or sell, DRS. The Finals MVP will never come from the losing team again.
I'll buy that. It's not coming from a losing team. It's not designed to come from a losing team. And certainly, if players are putting up 35 to 45 points a game, that team probably did win the NBA Finals. I just think it's the way of the product. And it's a shame because you do have those unbelievable efforts by a team that you might think is not as good as the other one. And guys put up Herculean jobs, just like LeBron James in that losing effort. But it's designed to go to the winning team. I don't think it's ever going to go against to another losing. And also, if it was recent, like Ben, past 5 years it happened, like, maybe it could happen again, even if that was the only time it happened. But the fact that it happened so long ago, the precedent has been set. It's a victory award for the team that won and also the best player on the team that won. And by the way, Iguodala,
it's also a narrative award. Yeah, I know. Iguodala. I agree. But listen, it is a narrative award. Yes, people's legacies and maybe some financial incentives are decided by how these hardware are given out. But it's a narrative award, and you are always going to find at least somebody enough to celebrate on a victorious team than give it to the best loser. It's just how things work. Hour 3 starts next.